What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Lexi J Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Lexi Johnson. This is my husband and co-host, Brett Johnson. Brett was just talking before we started this. It's kind of surreal because this is the last week we're in this house.
It's very surreal.
It's crazy.
I'm having a hard time grasping it, really, you know?
We've been in it for 5.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we moved in March of 2018.
Over 5.5.
Yeah, it's wild. And just to kind of fill up those in that aren't following along, we really haven't, for the most part, I mean, relative to how much I share of the rest of our lives, the housing situation in our new house that we're building, we've kept pretty private. We were building the house. We had the land for like over a year and had already had the whole construction up pretty much before I talked about it on social media, which was kind of nice just because we are so, when I say we, I share so much of our lives, with my clients and then on social media.
I just can't keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, Brett won't shut up or otherwise we would be hermits. But that was one thing that Brett and I had talked about when we had started the building process. We wanted that to just be our thing for a while, which was kind of cool. And for the most part, we really have kept it pretty private. We haven't shared a ton. Like, I've done a few sneak peeks on my story, but other than that, we really haven't talked about it much. However, we are in a little bit of a limbo, or approaching this limbo, where we have to be out of this house in a few days. We sold this house, got it under contract, and then we thought that our new house would be done a little bit earlier, and as contracting or any sort of construction goes, the date just keeps getting pushed back and pushed back. So we are going to be living in an interim space for a few months, and it's just going to make us that much more appreciative of our new space. So
It'll happen when it happens, right?
Yeah. So it would be a lot more exciting, the process itself of moving out of this house, if I knew that we were going straight into the new house.
Yeah.
But
I think it would have a much more definite end if we were just segueing immediately into the new house. But as it currently stands, it is going to be an awkward pause, so to speak.
Yeah, we're going to have to essentially move twice. And because we're fortunate enough that Brett's parents have they have a lake house, and I can work remotely, so we're gonna have a space to stay where we don't have to pay rent, which is awesome, and we won't have to crash with another family, because that would just be, we had family offer, which was so generous, but it would be a disruption for both sides. Like, I don't have a traditional at-home job, so I'm imagining us living with one of our siblings or our parents, and I'm recording and I'm blasting music and hollering and stuff. It would be a disruption for both sides, but it was super generous of everyone to offer. So it'll be really nice. We have our own space. However, Brett does not have the luxury of working remote, at least 100%. So he's going to be splitting time. He's going to be living either with his parents or his sister for a portion of the week, so he can be in the office, and then he'll come spend the rest of the time with the dogs and I down at the lake, which again is just going to make us that much more appreciative of our permanent spot when we get in it, which tentatively is set to be mid-January, but I'm not going to hold my breath for that.
Yeah, that's what we're pushing for, but not holding my breath for.
Yes. So there's your house update if you're curious. We are very excited. It's becoming more real, and this house that we're currently in, is pretty desolate. It's the bare necessities right now, really.
Truly. Yeah. There's more stuff down here that you can't really see in frame if you're watching the YouTube version than there really is upstairs. Like our living room, there's nothing to sit on except for bar stools at the countertop. We eliminated all the furniture, and we've got our bedroom set that we still have. But outside of that, this is really the only piece of lounging furniture that we have left.
Yeah, it's really opened up our living room. The dogs don't know what to think about it. They're weirded out.
Yeah, they were certainly eyeballing a lot.
It's going to be a weird transition for them also.
Yeah. I think that they're enjoying the extra space. Butler just gets to sprawl out and lay in different spaces, sleep in new places.
I feel like they're low-key really upset that the couches are gone, though, because they always lounge on the couch.
Yeah, despite
Butler loves the spot where the sun comes in on that couch.
Yeah, despite my better efforts, he continued to get on top of that couch.
One thing about that man, he is going to find
the softest spot. The softest spot he can find.
All right. Well, anyway, for the podcast, we haven't done an in or out episode in a long time, and we were talking about it. So we are going to do an in or out episode. And if you're new here, these are where we have 3 topics, either suggested by you guys or just formulated from our own brains, where they're not necessarily controversial topics. I guess they could be, but we just say, are we in or are we out? We state our own opinion, and as said, they are our opinions, so you are more than welcome not to agree with them or to have different stances, but it is our opinion, so we're entitled to ours just like you are entitled to yours. And I feel like that has to be a disclaimer because it's 2023 and people will argue with you about the sky being blue. So that being said,
true,
we've got 3 topics. Should we list them all or go one by one?
Let's go one by one.
Okay, so the first one was 90s sitcoms. Are you in or out on 90s sitcoms?
So, first thing that comes to mind, what is it for you?
I always think of Friends.
Okay, me too.
Friends and
I'm
like
sure that
Seinfeld.
Yeah, Seinfeld is probably the.
Hold on,
is it Seinfeld or Seinfeld?
I was gonna say I feel like we're pronouncing that different. I think it's spelled like a field, but
yeah,
I've
but I
always
think
heard
it's pronounced
feld.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
Seinfeld. Yeah.
Anyway, did you ever really watch Seinfeld?
No.
I know it's like a huge thing. I should probably actually give it a shot now.
Seinfeld, Frasier, Fresh Prince. That was another, like that era.
I don't really think of it being that era, but yeah, it was. For
I don't know
sure.
if Saved by the Bell is a sitcom. If it is, I could change my answer. Go ahead.
So I think of Friends immediately because that's what I grew up with. My sisters and my mom watched that like religiously. Like, they still quote it to this day. And now whenever I look back at it, like if I rewatch something now, then I'm very aware of the live audience, the laughter. And I think that it's just more pronounced now because now like my show is The Office, or we'll watch really any of the modern sitcoms.
Modern Family, New Girl,
Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
None of them have, that audience, that laughter where it's like, okay, insert laughter where the audience is supposed to laugh. And it just makes it that much more obvious. So I guess it's just really like a sign of the times where you look back and you can it gives you that feel, it feels like the 90s because of that element. But I'm in, like, I really liked Friends. I still like Friends, but would I rather watch The Office? Yeah. That's probably more geared toward my humor. But I do like, there's a certain amount of nostalgia that comes along with Friends.
Yeah. You had said your family quotes Friends all the time, and they do. I had mentioned because I am such like of the modern shows, so the New Girl, Office, the Parks and Recs, and Modern Family, all of those, like I could quote them front to back. So I think that it's assumed that I would also be able to quote Friends, and then it's inevitable that at some gathering one of them starts and they're like, remember that line on Friends, and they start it and they're waiting for me to pick up, and it's like the longest 5 seconds of my life, and I'm like, I hate so much that I don't know the answer. I wish the interaction would stop because I'm so uncomfortable. This is an unpopular opinion, probably going to get some heat for it. I don't think Friends is funny. I don't think it's funny, and I am sorry, especially because Matthew Perry just died. Rest in peace. I think that it's like the idea of it's very sweet, like the friendship. I think that's really cute. I don't think the humor is funny.
Yeah, I think it's more of like a cheesy humor now. At that time, like it was, I don't know, it was, I would say, a lot funnier because it was more risque at that time. Like there was elements of that show that I think were, like on the edge of being acceptable for like live or, TV broadcast stuff,
Yeah, that kind of humor wasn't as accessible as it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'm in. I'm in on it.
Yeah, I think I'm out. Sorry,
It's all right.
but I'm glad that you're in.
I forgive you.
I like that you enjoy that. Okay, so the second one.
Okay.
This is a very, very powerful one.
Oh boy.
And people are going to, I mean, your response could make or break a lot of people's opinions of you. I said,
I don't like that.
I gave the disclaimer at the start that these are our opinions, and if you don't agree with them, that's okay. This one may get you canceled. Are you in or out on Taylor Swift?
Whew. Damn. Could hear a pin drop everywhere waiting for my response. No, I am in.
You're in? You're a Swiftie?
I wouldn't call myself a Swiftie. I just respect greatness.
That was exactly what I was gonna say, that term. But I think I am becoming a Swiftie.
Yeah, I'm not like on that level where like I feel like what I would deem a Swiftie is somebody who like really delves into all the lyrics of the music and picks apart everything and finds elements of her life where it applies, and these secret meanings behind everything, and following her each and every move and knowing her relationship history and how it ties into all these historical songs. And there's a whole big thing. And then really for me, it's less about that, and like I kind of detach her, like I'm not commenting on like any opinions or any of her songs, like per se. Like she does have like very catchy music, and I do think a lot of the stuff that just the bare minimum amount of information that I have on like some of the songs, it is clever. But really whenever it comes down to it, I just respect greatness, and she is the definition of greatness. I mean, she has developed truly an empire. And it's amazing to see the following that she has and how loyal that following is. And for her to have garnered that much loyal attention, that she has, it's impressive to me.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. She is the definition of greatness, and I feel like those that like throw stones at it, it's entirely out of jealousy, and it's so easy to tell just because whether you like her music or not, it's really, like you had said, you can kind of detach from that and identify that like this is historical right now. This is Michael Jordan happening in music, what she's doing on tour, and it's incredible.
Right.
And that side of it and the following that she has, that they're so loyal and so invested in her and they ride so hard for her, I think that is so freaking cool. And that was really like what got me interested and invested. And I think it really happened earlier this summer is when I started taking note. So I am way late on the bandwagon. I am a late adopter of a Swiftie, but hopefully you'll accept me. But I was just like noticing, and these people that I knew, my friends, that they were just so enamored by her, and people paying outlandish amounts of money to go on her tour. And then like when I was seeing TikToks and stuff about her tour and what a spectacle it is, it's a 3-hour show. Like she's an athlete. She's performing, singing, dancing, having like, it's like 43 songs or something like that. Something incredible. I can't imagine just the stamina you have to do that. She does it all. And I was like, that is, from just a business standpoint, that is so respectable, so cool. And then I started listening to more of her music, and like you had mentioned, just the like wittiness behind so much of it. I think that it's so incredible. Anyone that can like write poems, write books, write lyrics and songs that have never been written before, it's incredible to me, because I can't imagine sitting down and trying to write a song and not coming up with something that I have already heard before. Mm-hmm. Like I would just subconsciously, I would put down something that I know I've already heard.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot.
And the fact that she has hundreds, I don't know how many, but like hundreds of songs that are incredibly unique. Like each one singularly unique. I think that's so cool. And I just have a lot of respect for that talent. I think that it's incredible. And it's obviously a skill that she's continued to develop over I mean, over a decade now, close to 2 decades probably. And just, you have to respect the longevity of that, of being great for that long. I think it's awesome. I think it's cool.
Yeah,
I'm a new Swiftie.
There's the craft itself that's impressive. Being like you were just describing, being able to create new music over and over and have it not be the exact same thing. I mean, that goes for any musician. So
Yeah,
that's just part of that craft. That's part of that profession. But then to be able, on top of that, to build that following and captivate an audience the way that she does, she clearly has an amazing gift, and she's just slowly just gotten better and better at it. And I think that there's a huge part of it, that it ties back to people's childhood. She's been around long enough where there's a certain amount of nostalgia with music that she created in the very beginning. I mean, Romeo and Juliet immediately takes me back to...
I think it's called Love Story.
Whatever it is. I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about whenever I say it. But that song takes me back. I mean, I can think of whenever I was hearing that, like in my childhood. And music has a way of doing that, bringing back very vivid memories. There's a very unique part of music there, with the way that it triggers memories.
Yeah. I also think because she started writing at such a young age, and then she wrote from that perspective and that experience, the following obviously being primarily women, like there are Swiftie men too, but like she's writing from a perspective that we've all lived. So I'm trying to like give you an example. Do you remember the song Boys of Fall?
Yes.
It came out when we were in high school.
Yes.
And
we walked out to it at our football games.
I bet that gave you goosebumps.
Yeah, because I walked out to it at our football game.
That was your experience. Like you knew exactly what he was singing about. And there are so many different, like whether it's being like a 15-year-old girl having a crush on an older boy, or like literally any breakup, any friendship that went wrong. There are just so many different instances where you're like, I can resonate with that. And it's cool that someone can articulate it in a way that you've experienced and put it into a song, that is catchy and like beautifully written. But it's just, I think that's another part. It's like, it's cool that an experience you lived is put into a song. And I think that just ties into the fandom and like that collective following where people feel like they're even more tied to her because you have that shared experience almost. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you can connect emotionally and you feel like, you and that person have this deep emotional connection because you've experienced the same thing or something very similar, then right there, there's a fan for life. And, but overall, yes, I'm in. And if you have any respect for greatness, like there's so many people this is the thing that drives me crazy, is there's so many people that get annoyed whenever she comes up because she comes up a lot. Well, remove yourself from the situation and let's just be aware of the present moment. Let's go back to the 90s. Like you referenced Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was probably mentioned. I mean, if there was a word count on how many times Michael Jordan was mentioned on television in that era, there's probably people who said the exact same thing about him, that they were absolutely fed up. They were annoyed. They didn't want to hear another word about Michael Jordan. And now, like, we have this perspective. We're able to look back on that era and have a true respect for what happened in that 10-year time span, basically, of true greatness. And people say, well, man, I wish I could go back to the 90s and relive that. And it's a lot easier to say that, past the point.
In hindsight.
Right. It's a lot easier to say or see in hindsight and say in hindsight, because you have a true appreciation for what was happening in that era. But whenever it's happening in the here and now, it's so much harder to be present and recognize greatness when it's right in front of you. And I guarantee 20 years from now, there will be people who are looking back and saying, man, I wish I could go back, and I wish I could go to one of her live concerts. And It's going to be the same situation, but you just have to be able to grasp what's really happening in the here and now. And if you respect, I mean, the ability to, to build greatness and to do anything that's extraordinary, then you should respect Taylor Swift.
I have several points on that. One, I love that you're so like passionate and adamant about this stance, because I also think a lot of people hate on it and get annoyed by it because they see it as like almost childish and girly, where like the person listening to it that says they're annoyed by Taylor Swift, they're like, I would never be annoyed by Michael Jordan because it's cool to be, it's cool to be surrounded and inundated with sports. And I am a sports girl to my core. I feel like I probably pull more towards Michael Jordan than Taylor Swift. But the people that are like, I think that they don't want to be seen as like any sort of like silly or frilly or girly by having any sort of association to liking Taylor Swift. But I'm so glad that you can just identify like what she's built and the greatness. Like, you don't have to belt out, I'm feeling 22 to like, say, or just respect that. The other side of it that I think is really admirable is that she also has gone through, and I'm like, again, I'm new to this and just looking from the outside in, but there is an incredible amount of like adversity in just being in the public eye for so long, and having every sort of like part of your life on display and judged by people that have never and will never ever meet you. Like, that is a really scary thing. I experience like such a 0.0001% of what she does, and sometimes the comments just like they get to you. So I can't even imagine being on display at such a level and then continuing to, this is a calling. You have this skill, and she continues to do it. She could have retired at like 22
easily.
And just, sailed off into the sunset. You never would have seen her again, and she would have been living in luxury. But she has this ability that, if she feels compelled to share, and I know millions upon millions of people are grateful for that, but there are still haters that, are attacking her because they feel some righteousness to it. But I think, that's another thing that's just like, it's super admirable.
Yeah, and she's earned everything that she has. That's super respectable.
Yeah.
This is America. We live in a capitalist society. Thank God, still. But I can't help but just profess my respect for it.
How much would you pay to go to one of her concerts?
How much do people normally pay to go to one of her concerts?
How much would you pay?
If she was touring in the U.S. right now, like, how much would I pay to go to Kansas City to see her?
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't go to concerts, so I don't really have any.
I know, but now that you're talking about like, okay, hindsight, you would have paid tickets to go see the Bulls.
Okay, is this like a decent seat, or is it just a seat?
If I think from my limited knowledge of the price, you could be sitting on the lights in Arrowhead, and it's gonna cost you a pretty penny.
$1,000? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just curious what you would cough up.
Yeah, whenever we would be buying for two. So that's the sucker punch. Is it's like, okay, well, whatever the price is, multiply it times two.
Yeah.
So if you're talking $1,500, there's $3,000 just to get your ass in the door and in a seat. So I don't know. I guess if I really sit back and think, okay, well, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'll never go to another one again. And, there are people that will go to 6 of her shows, and they'll travel all around the world to do it. It's like, okay, well, $3,000's nothing, in an entire lifetime of getting to see someone who's doing something that's never been done before. So, I would say that she's the biggest music icon that's ever lived at this point. You also have to take into consideration that with like the power of social media and just media in general today, like, she is a worldwide icon. And I know that, like, the Beatles were like a multinational icon, and others. I'm not a music fanatic, but she is, I don't think that it's even, you can't even argue it. I mean, she is the largest music icon of all time.
Yeah. This turned into the Taylor Swift podcast. Okay, we have our final topic, and this is again going to be a little controversial. Kind of switching gears a little bit. Are you in or out on moving in prior to marriage?
Kind of switching gears a little bit.
Well, we're no longer talking about Taylor Swift. Are you in or out on living together unwed?
Well, I mean, I'm not out. Okay, what is it? How did you phrase it?
Living together.
So if I'm saying I'm in on living together prior to being married.
Yeah, or without a marriage.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm in on that. I mean, like I'm not going to judge somebody because they're living together without being married. We did not we went about it fairly traditionally, but
to be fair, I was in college and we got married 2 weeks after I graduated.
yeah.
But yeah, both of our families are very traditional in that sense where
like it wouldn't have been like acceptable within our families for sure.
I mean, like my brother and sister-in-law moved in before they got married. So, I mean, and my parents got married or got pregnant in high school. So, I mean, like the view, they would much rather prefer you to
I
get
guess
married
there'd
first.
be a strong preference.
So we got married, or we moved in after marriage. Also, I was in college 2 weeks before getting married. But now I'm looking back and I'm like, dang, honestly, it's kind of risky. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of scary to think about that's a lot to commit to. What if you guys don't mesh well at all living together?
Yeah. Yeah, that is hard. I mean, there is like part of the whole marriage thing though is like you go into it knowing what it's meant to be. And you don't just, I guess some people do. I don't understand it. Like they get married somewhat willy-nilly. But I mean, whenever I was choosing to marry you, you're it. Quite simply, like that's a very definite decision. There's a line in the sand that's being drawn. So there wasn't a question. There wasn't a what if. I mean, kind of like we've discussed before on in or outs, like we've deliberated, or not deliberated, but we've talked about a prenup and like how I'm out on that, because to me it's like there is no.
Have we done prenup before?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm quite. If it wasn't,
now you know.
If it wasn't a
a
topic, then we talked about it. I know we talked about it on here at one point in time.
I can't remember.
But to me, it's just like you're going into it expecting it to fail. That's the mindset that I think that you have, by signing a prenup. But that's a whole different topic of conversation. So that's why I have a pretty hard stance on that personally. Like you do whatever the hell you want, but I'm not signing a prenup before I get married. But as it pertains to living together, like to me, I don't do whatever you want. I'm in on you doing it if you think that that's necessary, but I feel like you should know ahead of time enough about that person. Like you have to spend a lot of time with somebody to know that you want to marry them.
Well, I think it's not necessarily like, okay, I think the question was posed more so you're not like engaged or anything. It's like, are you in or out on like moving in together while you're dating? I think that was what it was.
I see.
Like a trial.
Yeah, it's I could see that being something that I would consider more normal, like if I was still dating now,
Yeah,
because like I'm in such a different phase of life than like it wasn't even an option in college. Like I was on campus and staying on like frat property, and if it wasn't the house, it was the annex or the senior living. So different circumstances. We were together all the time. So I mean, one could say that we theoretically lived together in college.
Yeah, I think especially like you're so particular about a lot of things that I could see you for sure wanting to like, do a little trial run. But if we were single or dating, at this age, I would be on board with moving in with my boyfriend. Just because I'm like, I don't want to go over to anyone else's house. Truthfully, like I like being in my routine in my own space. So you're more than welcome to join me, but I'm not going over there.
Yeah.
Is probably what my thought process would be now.
Yeah. I do, this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, but I do think it's weird whenever people don't, like, when they refuse to get married. Like, if they date just forever and ever, and it's like they just refuse to get married, it's like, why? Like,
When
are you scared? Are you scared to commit,
you're
or like, do you have
practically
this? Yeah, if you have this, like, I don't know, this anti-marriage, stance. I don't know. I think marriage is just like something so sacred and pure that it's something to really like embrace. Like it's a feeling of unity between two people, and being able to like declare that, I don't know.
legally. Yeah, I mean, like, I get people being scared off by marriage, especially if you've had poor experiences, or poor, like, models of marriage in your life. I can understand.
Yeah,
that
I
not
understand
being a great-
why, I suppose, some people are opposed to it because of the exposure that they've had to marriage, and most likely it's been poor,
Yeah.
if that was the case.
Yeah, but I think I'm in. If you want to, I mean, live and let live. If you want to move in with your boyfriend or girlfriend, move in with them. It doesn't affect me. You're not moving into my house.
Right, that's my thing. It's like there are certain things where, like, people's stance is, well, you do you, it doesn't bother me. And it's like, I've thought the same thing before, but then there's a domino effect. Like, it eventually creates problems for people. But this is one of those things where I don't really think it has a negative effect on me. If somebody else decides they want to live with somebody prior to getting married, I don't think that's necessarily the proper stance to have on a lot of things, just to be indifferent and say, you do you, because it doesn't have any effect on me. Because I do think that we should adopt a lot of, strong principles and just basic, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Ethics
Yeah.
within society.
I do think a lot of people bitch and moan and put up a lot of argument over things that other people and ways that other people are living their lives, and they just waste so much time and energy on just disagreeing with someone, the way that someone else is living their life. So
Yeah.
it for
Just
sure
disagree
is
simply to disagree.
yeah, it's for sure a case to case basis. But yeah, we agreed on everything except for the 90s sitcoms.
Yeah. I kind of figured.
I'll take that.
I kind of figured that would be your stance on that.
Yeah,
It's not like we really watch
It's not
them,
that I like absolutely hate Friends. It's not. I don't have that strong of a stance. But
if you didn't grow up watching it, I totally get it. Like like I said, there's like a certain amount of nostalgia.
Yeah. I think my family might have watched Friends. I can't really remember. If they did, it wasn't super memorable to me.
I was gonna say, like, anytime I've been around your family, there's really been no mention of watching Friends.
No.
So if I were to guess, I would say it was not really on.
Well, guys, this may be the last podcast we record in this house. We might try to get another one in.
Ideally, we would get one
this week before we are evicted.
We evict ourselves.
Yes. But in the meantime, if you guys have any topics of discussion that you'd like to hear from us, let us know. I'm curious, are you in or out on these topics? But we will talk to you next Wednesday.